1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. Okay, so I think we are going live here, and this is kind of a test because I haven't done a live video in a while, but I did want to. Let's see if I can move this down and bring up this. Yeah, so I think this is going to work. Okay, so if this is going to plan, and I have no idea if it is, because it's been about 2 or 3 years since I've done a live broadcast. If you subscribe to my channel, you're probably used to seeing either educational videos or hypnosis videos, and they tend to have my voice, but kind of like a looped image on the background. So you don't really get to see me too much. You might see a photo of me on the thumbnail or something like that. Anyway, it's worth explaining what I'm doing here. In 2 hours' time, I'm going to be doing a presentation for the New Zealand Hypnosis Conference. And although I've done marketing as a hypnotherapist and for other clients for many, many years, I've never actually done this presentation before. So if there is any audience at all to this, you are my guinea pig. You are my practice of a presentation that I haven't done before, just so I can get my head in this kind of space prior to doing it live at the conference in 2 hours' time. So if there is anyone watching at this point, feel free to put any kind of comments in the chat. And then at the end, if there is any questions or anything like that, I'm happy to answer them. And if there isn't, which there probably won't be because I'm not really known for doing live YouTube, that's totally fine as well. So this topic is called Mastering Marketing for Hypnotists. And why I think it's important is because I know lots and lots of people from the hypnotherapeutic world because I studied with them and I meet them at conferences and I'm friends with a lot of them. And getting new clients or building a hypnosis brand is really, really difficult to do if you don't know what you're doing. And I think I was fortunate, very fortunate, because I had a passion for hypnotherapy, but my background from the age of about 21, pretty much to now, was owning a PR agency and therefore working with marketing directors and head of communications on marketing strategies for really big brands. So when I became a hypnotherapist about 11 years ago, I had an advantage, and that advantage is that I already understood a lot about branding and marketing and communication and all those kind of things. And that's really why I'm doing this as a topic, because what I take for granted as my understanding, a lot of hypnotherapists, you don't know what you don't know, it sounds like an obvious thing. So let's go through this. So who am I? I'm known mainly for being a podcaster. I have a podcast called The Hypnotist. It's had, if we include YouTube as well as the podcast, over 10 million downloads. But that wasn't how I started. I started working in radio, and then at the age of 23 set up a PR agency, and I've had that PR agency for over 20 years. As a hypnotherapist, my journey started with an ambitious plan. I had the goal of being in Harley Street. And for those outside of the UK, Harley Street is quite a prestigious street in central London where the rich and famous get their healthcare. And because I had a background in branding and PR and psychology, I knew that that would give me a certain level of prestige and credibility and a high level of perception. So most people work their way up to getting on Harley Street. I decided that's where I wanted to start. So I did. I took out a contract, and every Sunday morning from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., I had that space. I had the space, but I didn't have any clients. And when you're paying quite high rent for a space in a prestigious location, it motivates you to find clients. And how I started doing that was with Google AdWords. And I set up a Google AdWords account. And at the time, I was specializing in weight loss hypnotherapy. And I had this naive idea that anyone that wanted to lose weight would be interested in weight loss hypnosis. And quite frankly, I couldn't have been more wrong. That just isn't the case. So I was buying keywords like liposuction and gastric band surgery and weight loss pills. And all of the people that put that in Google, they don't want a hypnosis. They want the other thing that they're searching for. So I wasted thousands of pounds on irrelevant keywords because I didn't know what I was doing. But when you waste that much money, you learn quickly. And what I learned is that the kind of people that actually would be interested in weight loss hypnosis are the people putting things like lose weight with hypnosis or hypnotherapy to lose weight in Google. And I started buying all of those keywords, and that was driving traffic to my site. And a few of them would then book a consultation call with me, and a few of them would become clients. And there was enough clients to mean that every Sunday morning up until the early afternoon, I was busy. But I was paying about £2,000 every single month on Google AdWords just to have enough clients in the Harley Street premises. So it was great for my learning because I was a busy hypnotist, and it was great for my prestige and credibility because I was a busy hypnotist in Harley Street, a very prestigious location, but it wasn't very good for profit margins. And if I added up all of the time and the travel and the Google AdWords and the rent, I wasn't making very much money at all. But I was doing what I wanted to do, which was being this kind of hypnotherapist in central London, working with clients face to face. Where that changed was COVID. And when COVID came along, I kind of knew that the number of people wanting to see a hypnotherapist face to face was going to decline. So I cancelled my contract. I gave notice at Harley Street and just decided that I wanted to, during this lockdown period, become a better hypnotist. So I was investing my time in learning, but also being creative and innovative and just trying out different stuff. And I just launched a podcast, not The Hypnotist. It was another one that I have called Modern Mindset. And that was doing okay. And I felt comfortable with the podcast platform. So I decided if I was going to see less clients face to face, that I actually wanted to have the same amount of time doing hypnosis, even if I wasn't doing hypnosis for clients. So I launched a podcast called The Hypnotist. And the premise of the Hypnotist podcast is real hypnosis with real clients facing real issues. And you get to hear the actual hypnosis session that I did with the client, but I protect their confidentiality by only recording my voice. And to begin with, it was doing very, very poor, 3, 4, 5 downloads a day. And then something happened, and then suddenly it started growing. And it now gets around about 15,000 downloads a day. But that only happened by me testing something. So that's who I am and a little bit of that journey. And YouTube is now part of that. So I do educational explainer videos on YouTube, but I also do my audio hypnosis. I turn them into videos, and that helps to build somewhat of an audience related to those interested in hypnosis. This is the intro. I'll see if this plays. I don't know if it's going to play with the audio.
Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
So that intro there effectively used to be the beginning of a lot of my early YouTube videos, and the audio bit is the intro to my podcast. So it has certain things there like brand positioning, the credibility of working with, let's say, rich or famous people, and it has certain things that are purely designed for positioning, and that's one of the things I'm going to talk about later, which is really good for building your brand. This page here that I'm sharing is designed to be overwhelmingly confusing. There are many different elements of marketing. Marketing covers advertising, it covers referrals, it covers data analytics, it's kind of your social media, your interaction conversion rates, and all of those kind of things. And this is one of the things that makes people not want to learn about marketing, because they look at something like this and it just looks overwhelmingly complicated, and most people don't want to do complicated things. All of these things are learnable, all of these things may help, but the idea that you have to learn it all for a lot of people means that they end up learning very little, and that becomes a problem. So I'm saying this not because we're going to cover all this kind of stuff, but just to highlight this is what puts people off. Before we actually go into what we are going to be talking about, I'm going to just run through 5 common marketing misconceptions. And the number one is that marketing is just advertising. Now, I run a PR agency, so I know that's not true. But a lot of people, they use marketing and advertising interchangeably, like it's the same thing. And I would say marketing is a very, very big circle that encompasses all of those things and more on that previous page. And advertising is just a little circle within that big circle that we call marketing. And you could even say that marketing has got a smaller circle, which is communications, and advertising is just paid for communication. So if you currently have the belief that marketing is just advertising, just change that belief now, because it isn't. Another marketing misconception is that if I'm good at what I do, clients will come. And I'd love it if that was true. It's the idea of if you build a better mousetrap, then the world will seek you out. If you create a better recipe for a burger than McDonald's, you'll be more successful than McDonald's. It's not true. It's not true at all. There are, I know, very, very talented hypnotists that are not as busy as I am. And they've been doing it for a lot longer, and I'd say they're very, very good, but they do not know how to build an audience. They don't know how to cultivate leads and convert leads into new clients. I'd wish it was true. And there is an element of truth to that, because if you have a way of building up a lot of clients, one of my belief systems is that you don't learn to swim by reading a book. You have to jump in the pool. So when I graduated from my postgraduate qualifications in hypnotherapy, I made I came to the conclusion that to become a very good hypnotist, I needed to do lots of hypnosis. And I've probably had about 2,000 clients since then. So I'm a lot better now than when I started. And there is an element of truth to that, because if you're really, really good and you've got clients, they're going to refer you to other clients. So there is some truth to that. But the idea that that statement is true is not true. If I'm good at what I do, clients will just come. And a lot of people get addicted to just learning more and more, and they get the competency. But if you've got the intellectual competency without actually working with clients, then you don't really have the skills, you just have the knowledge. So again, if that's a belief that you have, start thinking of that as a misconception. Marketing is pushy or manipulative. And again, there's truth to all of these misconceptions, because sometimes it is. Sometimes there is aggressive marketing. Sometimes it does use psychological techniques like scarcity and fear of loss to manipulate. But that doesn't mean that all marketing is pushy or manipulative. In the same way that communication can be rude or aggressive, also communication could be empathetic and kind. Just because it can be doesn't mean it is. So if you feel that marketing is pushy or manipulative, just make the decision not to market in that way. Do it in a very considered way, in a very non-pushy way. And on my podcast, I think I have one sales message, and that sales message is that if people are interested in the possibility of working with me, they can schedule a free consultation call. That's as pushy as I get. I don't create all this kind of scarcity. I don't tell people that they're broken and I'm the only one to fix them. I don't do any of those things. I just let them know that I am a working hypnotherapist and that they can explore working with me if they choose to do that. That is not pushy or manipulative. So it doesn't have to be. Another marketing misconception is this idea that social media is only for young audiences. And again, there's some truth to that because almost all young people are on social media, and a high proportion of boomers and let's say Gen X are not. You know, the average 50-year-old is not on TikTok, and the average 70-year-old is not on Instagram. But that doesn't mean that there isn't lots and lots of older people that are. One of the benefits of having a YouTube channel and quite a popular podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcast is I get the analytics, and the average audience of mine is 65% female, and the age demographic is most likely to be between 45 and 55. So some people have this belief that only young people listen to podcasts. And I know that isn't true because I see the data. So again, if you have that belief that it's not worth being on social media or some of these digital platforms because it's only for young audiences, again, it's a misconception and that could be costing you. And the final misconception that we're going to talk about here is the idea that marketing is expensive. And you remember that very first misconception that marketing is just advertising. Again, if you hold that belief that marketing is advertising and you confuse marketing with advertising and advertising can be expensive, then you could also think that marketing is expensive. And it doesn't need to be. I would say referrals are marketing. You know, organic content that you put on social media or a blog, you know, that's free to do. And that is marketing. So it really depends on how you define marketing as to whether or not you consider it to be expensive or not. Just because you can have very expensive sponsorship and you could pay to be in directories and you can pay for Google AdWords, just because you can pay doesn't mean you have to. And later on, we're going to talk about how you can create an infinite marketing budget, which sounds wonderful, but you can actually do that. And I'll talk about that later. So if you hold any of these, the great thing about working with other hypnotherapists is that you already know how to change beliefs. So if you believe any of those, write them down and just set the intention to change that belief because they simply aren't true. Now, what marketing can do is lots of things. And again, I don't want to make it overwhelming, but marketing can raise awareness. It's great for boosting credibility. It can build an audience loyal to you. You can establish a brand. You can pre-sell a client so they're sold on you even before you start talking to them. You can communicate an offer. You can do lots of these things. But for the purpose of today, we're going to have a narrow definition of marketing, which is more, kind of refined than it actually is, just to make, you could spend 3 years learning about marketing. So in an hour, we can't cover too much. So today, we're just going to talk about that marketing is doing things that generates new clients, because in my experience, that's what hypnotherapists want the marketing to do. They want it to generate a new client. It's worth having a bit of an audit of where you are currently. Because if we define marketing as creating new clients, a new client is anyone that buys from you, and then you've got to figure out what can people buy from you right now. And for the majority of hypnotherapists that I know, there is only one thing that you can buy from them, and that is private hypnotherapy sessions. That is it. And if you currently are only offering private hypnotherapy sessions, then you need to expand your offering. And there's very simple ways that you could do that. You could offer group hypnotherapy sessions, and that can make it lower cost. So you could have a weekly scheduled course that you sell for just a few dollars, a few pounds, but have multiple people going on there. And you still make the same money, but you're serving more people. So you could offer group hypnotherapy sessions. You could have pre-recorded hypnosis audios or customized hypnosis recordings. It's possible for people to do both from me. They can go on my Shopify store. They can go on my website, and I give a certain number of hypnosis recordings completely free. So I capture their email address. But outside of that, they're about £10 per recording. And I have orders trickling in every day. I also have a lower cost than my private hypnotherapy sessions for a customized hypnosis recording. And by doing that, it means that people that don't want to actually kind of block out 60 minutes, they can book a customized recording, send me what they want the hypnosis to be about, and then I record it based on their notes. So again, it's useful to have that. Online hypnotherapy programs or online courses. My flagship course is called Hypnotic Wealth, which I charge for about £500. I have a course on how to launch a podcast. I have a course, I have a few different courses, and they tend to be lower cost than working with me directly. So again, if you like the idea of having a broader offering, maybe you could do that. You could offer workshops and seminars, either real or virtual. Before COVID, I used to do a monthly spider phobia workshop, and there used to be about 20 or 30 arachnophobes terrified of spiders. And then at the end of that workshop, they're all holding tarantulas and completely free of their phobia. And I love doing that. COVID changed things with these kind of real kind of seminars and workshops, but it was great. And I love doing that kind of stuff. If you get very, very good at one particular type of protocol or a niche, you could offer training. And a lot of people at the conferences, that's now their core revenue stream, is that. You could write a book or an ebook. And that could be, if you look at someone like Paul McKenna, most of his revenue, most of his income comes from a book. So when we say securing a new client, for Paul McKenna, that's more likely someone new that buys a book than it is someone new that does private hypnotherapy sessions with him. Corporate wellness programs or memberships. The wellness programs tend to be for bigger entities. Memberships can have lots of people that don't know each other. And you can have recurring revenue that comes from those memberships. Or it could be coaching. And it could be coaching that utilizes hypnotherapy as part of that coaching. And it's worth thinking about having high-ticket things that cost a lot and very, very cheap things that anyone could buy, so that anyone that wants to work with you can work with you. But you should price your actual physical time, your one-to-one time, at the highest rate, because that's the scarcest resource. Whereas if you create a course, once you've created that course, selling that course can be at a lower price because it doesn't require any more of your time. So that's what you want to be thinking about. So ask yourself that question: what can people buy from you now? And what could they buy from you in the future? I'm going to be talking about 5 hacks, because again, in the space of an hour, it's really difficult to teach a lot about marketing. So hacks are a very good way to speed up time. I'm a big believer in the Pareto principle. And the Pareto principle is this idea of an 80-20 rule, that 80% of the value comes from 20% of the distinctions. So these hacks are Pareto principle, let's say principles. And hack number 1 is to find a niche within a niche. And this person here that you can see on screen is a guy called Naval Ravikant, a very smart guy, someone that I've tried to learn as much as I can from this person. He's a tech investor. He's not a hypnotherapist. But one of the things that he says on several podcasts that he's been on is a wonderful phrase: the best person in the world for anything gets to do it for everyone. And when I started out in hypnotherapy, I went on the directories and I looked at website after website after website of all different hypnotherapists, and almost all of them were generalists. And they had something along the lines of, I can help you with, and a list of about 50 different things, from nail biting to blushing to fear of flying and fear of public speaking to weight loss. And I remember thinking, when I was looking at website after website, it's kind of like nobody would see a doctor like that. That they wouldn't, if a brain surgeon could also do bariatric surgery and also do dermatology, you think they're not so good at brain surgery. And I would say hack number one is find a niche within a niche. And what I mean by that is hypnosis is not a niche enough. So it could be weight loss hypnosis, or it could even be gastric band weight loss hypnosis. Like the smaller the niche that you find, the easier it is to build an audience and the easier it is to market, because you can create lots and lots of content around a very, very targeted niche. At the conferences that I speak at, quite often I see people that have figured out very, very targeted niches. And Kaz Riley, for example, is a good example. She specializes on hypnotherapy for sexual issues. And she's just very, very knowledgeable and does all of her client work on that particular niche. So it's easier to know what she stands for than someone that does that and 100 other things. So I would encourage you, I would urge you, if you don't have one already, to figure out a very, very clear niche for you. And if you do that, all of the marketing gets easier. Okay, hack number 2 is to turn yourself into a brand. Now, we've got a few faces here. You're going to know a few of these. We've got Richard Bandler, the co-founder of NLP. We've got Tony Robbins, that does a lot of hypnosis but doesn't call it hypnosis. We've got Paul McKenna, that I grew up seeing on English and British TV, and Marissa Peer, who, again, quite good training programs that are very profitable. So anyone trained in RTT is going to know about Marissa Peer. But what they all have in common is that if you say their name, you get an idea of what they're all about. Now, for me, Paul McKenna was a stage hypnotist originally. For a lot of other people, they would see him as a wellness author. Richard Bandler, I think he's a great hypnotist, but he's known for NLP. So when you turn yourself into a brand, it makes it easier for people to know what you're all about. And at that point, any marketing that you do becomes amplified, because it's very clear to people that you have credibility, you have awareness. All of these things linked into marketing becomes easier if the strategy is to turn yourself into a brand rather than just to sell hypnotherapy. Hack number 3 is be the content. And the reason why I say this is that core misconception that a lot of people have is that they have to buy the content. They have to do Google AdWords, Instagram ads, Facebook ads, pay to be in directories, all of those kind of things. And all of that stuff can be expensive. It doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. It just can be very expensive if you do a lot of that kind of stuff. And what I tend to find is that if I'm watching a YouTube video, let's say I like investing, if I watch an investment YouTube video, I'm there to see the content, see the people on the YouTube video that I'm choosing. And quite often, the adverts come up and interrupt that experience. Now, for me, I'm going to skip over those ads very, very quickly because advertising is based on the idea of interruption, grab your attention, and try and give you a call to action. But if you are the content, if you're the content that other people advertise on, then your audience is very low cost or free. You have more credibility, more loyalty. You have so much more time to communicate messages. And the great thing these days is that there is no limit to the amount of content that you can create and the type of content that you can create. I'm known for audio on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and YouTube content. I don't do very much on TikTok. I don't do very much on Instagram and Facebook. Other people, that's all they do is those other things. So you don't have to be good at all of these different platforms. You just have to find one or two and get really good at those one or two and then be consistent. And that might be to create a podcast. It might be to create a YouTube channel. It might be to create, a newsletter or a blog post. But find a form of content that you feel comfortable with. And for some of you, you will feel very comfortable on camera. And some of you will feel very comfortable with your voice because you're hypnotherapists. And other people, it's the written form. And writing is going to be your thing. It doesn't matter what it is. Be the content, create the content, be the consistent way of building an audience, and then marketing gets cheap and it gets fun as well because you get to be creative. Hack 4, when it comes to marketing, one of my favorite phrases is test, don't guess. And a lot of people will say, I'm not sure whether or not to do Instagram or TikTok. I'm not sure whether to do YouTube or a podcast. Test them. Do them both. Figure out what you prefer doing, what you enjoy more, and what generates more engagement and audience. And this is one of the most important things when it comes to marketing, is to not be afraid to try things and then analyze what works and do more of what works. So on my podcast, for example, I know that episodes that relate to sleep and alcohol and smoking and anxiety tend to get more traction, and actually more recently, law of attraction. Those topics get more of an audience, more engagement than if I did something else, let's say bruxism or shyness, for example, or niche phobias. So if I wanted to build an audience rapidly, I should create more content of my most popular type of content, but just variations of it. And there's so many things that you can test. You could test keywords on a Google Ads campaign. You can test the subject line on an email. You can test one offer versus another offer. And the problem with testing is that if you test too many things at exactly the same time, then it becomes very difficult to know what's actually working. So this idea of A/B split testing sounds complicated. It isn't. What you're doing is you're creating two similar things, and half of it is one type and the other is a different. So let's say that you want to create a new offer. You keep the offer the same, and maybe you're A/B testing the price. You price it at two different levels, and then you see which generates a better return. Or it might be that you're testing two different titles for a newsletter or a video. Okay, you could create both and have different titles and then see which generates more traction. And the problem is, if you don't test what works, you could end up doing a lot of things that aren't very effective. And I think it's misquoted to Einstein, this quote phrase, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. And I would say a lot of people in marketing are doing that. They're not testing and modifying and refining and changing based on the feedback. And the ideal thing is when you found your winner, that becomes the A in a new A/B split test. That whatever your winning formula is, test that against a B and see if the B can improve it. And if the B improves on the A, it becomes the new A. And then test something else to try and displace that. And what that does is it naturally leads to a process called optimization. Optimization is when you keep refining it until it's optimized and you just can't squeeze any more improvements. And a phrase that gets used quite a lot in marketing is ROI, return on investment. And if you're doing advertising, typically the return on the investment is whatever the metric is versus the ad spend. So if you're doing Google AdWords, it's what your budget is versus clicks or client conversion or whatever it might be. It's also worth measuring the return on investment of anything organic. So that last slide, be the content, is this idea of advertising is what you pay for and PR or organic content is what you pray for. You're doing stuff with effort and hoping to get results. And therefore, it's important to measure the time that you invest in anything organic, because it might be that you're spending a lot of time on something that doesn't give you much of a return, in which case stop doing that and try something else. If it does give you a return, then keep doing that thing. And the exception to that is unless you're having loads of fun doing it, in which case keep doing it anyway, because new clients or any kind of audience engagement is just the cherry on top. You're having so much fun anyway. And it can be fun to create content. You can look at it like a game. So don't be afraid of testing. Keep testing, keep optimizing, and then that brings your budget down. And it also means that you can scale up whenever you find something that works. That could be a new offer, new proposition, whatever it might be. Okay, hack 5. And this sounds complicated, but it isn't. And this is create an infinite marketing budget. Now, if you had an infinite marketing budget, you couldn't fail, because you would have endless amounts of money to constantly get your name out there in front of other people, and you're going to get clients on the back end of it because it's infinite. So how do you create an infinite marketing budget? The way that you do that is that you do something that gives you enough clients and enough profit from those clients to then mean that you've got more budget for more marketing. So let's use an example. Let's say that you do hypnotherapy sessions and you sell an average package at $500. Well, let's say that you do either paid for or organic. Let's say you do $100 or $200 worth of advertising, and every time you do that, it gives you a $500 client. Well, that's great, because with that $300 profit, you could then buy another £200 of marketing and then just rinse and repeat that process until you stop getting it. What wouldn't make sense is that if you are making $500 worth of clients from 200 spend, that you keep only spending 200. No, because if for every 200 you get 500, you want to scale that up so that you get a lot more clients. And the other thing is that if you get too busy with clients, don't turn clients away, raise your prices is the key thing, so that the same number of clients give you much more profit to do even more marketing. Now that's assuming it's an ad spend tactic. Okay, another tool could be organic. Okay, so I'll explain how I have an infinite marketing budget for clients. I do a podcast episode, and normally for every podcast episode that I produce, it generates one new client. And that new client typically will lead to an average of 3, 4, or 5 additional podcast episodes that the client is paying for, that then creates more content for me as a side effect of working with that client, that then generates more clients. So it's this infinite money glitch. It's this ability to find a way of creating an endless appetite to do more marketing, because the more marketing you do, the more profit you have to do more marketing. Another tactic is to have what's called a low value, you can call it a lead magnet or a low value offer. So let's say, for example, that you have some kind of low cost course. Let's say it's $50. But if you do $50 of marketing, organic or paid for, that for every $50, it just gets you, let's say, 10 email addresses and 1 client, and that client is giving you $50. Well, that means that you can keep on doing the marketing, because the low ticket thing that you're selling gives you enough money to do more marketing, and then the more marketing keeps on doing it. It kind of washes its face from the low ticket. Now, if you stopped there, you would still make profit, but that's not the goal, because you're acquiring all of these email addresses that you can do email marketing, which is where you do broadcasts and emails to an audience that you've already built yourself, which is very, very low cost marketing. And you could be offering higher ticket, higher value things like private hypnotherapy sessions or other online courses. And that's very low cost, but you get to build that audience for free, because the marketing is being paid for by the low ticket, the low value offer that is just there to pay for the marketing. So when you do that kind of thing, it really can give you the ability to have an infinite marketing budget. And if you do create an infinite marketing budget, don't stop it, but equally don't stop trying other things, because it might reach a point where it stops working and it no longer becomes viable, in which case, why not try and create 2, 3, 4 strategies that also have this kind of infinite marketing budget philosophy to it, and then that gives you, we call it a moat. It gives you resilience. So even if something changes, you can rely on the other thing. You're diversifying your lead acquisition strategies. Hopefully that makes sense. I appreciate this isn't quite as long as the talk I did yesterday. So any questions that you have, or situations that you're dealing with that you'd like some feedback from me, and I will just check if there is anything on the YouTube live. Okay, 4 likes there, and a few viewers. So it looks like this has come to an end. I don't think I can see any kind of questions from the interface that I'm on at the moment. So we're going to end this now. But thank you so much for watching. It's been really, really helpful. A nice little practice for me before my live one in about an hour's time. And thank you so much.